My apologies for the delay in the posting of this video today. There is a lot going on behind the scenes in the new Free Republic of Florida. I'm sure many of you are aware that we have been under a withering assault from Washington, D.C. and the powers that be for the last couple of years. Well, recently, we have been able to release some information that I'm sure is going to shock a lot of you. Many of you are aware of the recent event up in North Carolina where they lost power. What if I told you they tried that here in Florida multiple times and failed? We're going to cover that, but just for reference, today is Friday, 9 December 2022. It is currently 1942 hours. That is 7:42 p.m. in the evening for those of you in the civilian world. Here on the northeast coast of Florida, it is 61.9 degrees Fahrenheit. We had a beautiful high today of 81.7 degrees and a low of 56.5. No wind, barometer 30.12, and steady, and always being diligent. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. I very, very much appreciate it, especially those of you who continue to roll in over at the Patreon channel, only $1 per month. I'm getting a lot of messages from you guys saying, wow, really didn't know content could be like this. This is incredible. Thank you. Keep doing it. To the very best of my ability, I will put up as much content over there as I possibly can. Being able to partner with Vimeo is huge. Take the gloves off, tell it like it is, not worry about the censors. Those of you that are worried about the money aspect of it, fully refundable first 90 days. And it's even less than $1 a month if you sign up for an entire year. And that gives you access to everything going back years and years and years. Would love to have you over there, but what's the big news? What's the major news? 6 different events in September where individuals tried to walk into power stations across Florida and shut everything down. And these weren't just random crazy people. These people knew exactly what to look for, exactly where to go to do the most damage in the shortest amount of time. It's very clear that it was an inside job, and it was all over the state of Florida. But because of our security forces, because we have our own independent way of conducting security that we don't reveal, we were able to thwart all of these attacks. And it's been classified up until now. The recent events, though, up in North Carolina, I think is probably going to make a lot of people stand up and scratch their heads. What didn't North Carolina do that Florida's doing? Well, if we gave away our tactics, we gave away our techniques, they would be able to probably find a way to get around them. 1 incident at the Orange Blossom facility, 2 at Zephyr Hills, 1 in Clearwater, 1 in Tampa, and 2 in Bay Ridge. So it is near Orlando. So it was a very, very busy September. They were trying to create all sorts of havoc and mayhem and problems. And because we were able to stop it, because we were able to step up and act like our own free republic, we were able to do things that in other parts of the country can't get done. Report shows 6 intrusions at power stations in Florida. Just days after what officials are calling a targeted attack at 2 Duke Energy substations in North Carolina, News Nation has obtained a federal document showing evidence at least 6 other intrusions at Duke Energy substations in Florida. In September, Duke Energy Florida experienced at least half a dozen substation intrusion events, according to an incident report obtained by News Nation on September 21. An intruder forced entry into the Zephyr Hills North substation in Pasco County, manually tripping equipment that caused an outage lasting only 9 minutes, according to a report filed with the U.S. Department of Energy. 1 day later, someone forced entry at Duke's East Clearwater substation in Pinellas, again manually tripping equipment that caused an outage lasting only 2 minutes. The 2 substations are about 50 miles apart, and both incidents took place in the early morning hours between 2 and 4 a.m. Experts say the threats to infrastructure are nothing new, but appear to have become more common recently. It's definitely not a new type of threat, but I think we're seeing a level of intent to cause damage that is higher than we've probably seen in the past, said Todd Keel, an associate managing director for security risk management at Kroll, who previously worked with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The report filed by, oh, by the way, yeah, we're getting a lot of those folks, too, that are waking up to what's going on in D.C. and leaving and coming to the new Free Republic of Florida and bringing the information they have to us about what goes on at the federal level so that we can be prepared for it. The report filed by Duke Energy Florida said the 2 latest incidents followed 4 other similar substation intrusion events, all of which occurred in the state during the month of September. Earlier in the month, an intruder entered Duke's Bay Ridge substation in 2 separate incidents on September 10 and September 13. Orange Blossom substation was 18th and Zephyr Hills on the 21st. Quote, "We cannot comment," and this is from a request for comment on this from, who was it? Duke Energy. "We cannot comment on any ongoing legal proceedings or investigations. However, given the nature and scale of our operations, we, alongside other authorities, are local law enforcement, continuously assessing and evolving our measures to protect our critical infrastructure. That partnership includes help bringing anyone who damages our system to justice." Federal law enforcement suspects the people behind the Florida intrusions likely have inside knowledge of the grid and understand how to power down equipment without causing damage, according to a memo obtained by News Nation. The fact that someone has potentially identified a critical substation and then has knowledge of those critical pieces of equipment inside that substation leads me to believe that they're dealing with people who have inside knowledge. So, it never ends. It absolutely never ends. We are continually fighting for, and to read between the lines there, basically the federal authorities were just unaware that we were going to catch their operatives so quickly. Of course, they have plausible deniability because they're, of course, helping with the investigation because of the nature of what went on. But trust me on this one. What's going on is being orchestrated. Anybody who knows anything about these power substations knows you just don't waltz in there and start pushing buttons. It just doesn't work like that. Now, funny story, when you look at what was said today by the Russian president about missiles, and you look at this old picture of these missiles hitting Florida, look at where they're all aimed. Tampa and Orlando. Kind of a strange coincidence, don't you think, that today is the day when we release this that he comes out and says what he said about the missiles? Thousands of them. But there are other things that don't seem to be connected, but are. It's a very strange thing, if you're not read in on economics, to wonder why oil going down is a bad thing. Because when oil goes down, the dollar goes up. And you think, well, gosh, that's a double whammy great thing. My dollar has more purchasing power, and when I go to the gas station, gas is cheaper. It's not quite that simple. Oil prices continue to plummet as recession fears are hitting global demand. See, here's what happens. And here's a really great explanation in just about a paragraph from a website called Finimize. And it explains this. Assume three people about the relation between the dollar and the price of oil and the purchasing power of the US dollar. See, you can't worry about what the dollar is versus, say, the yen, or what the dollar is versus any other currency, because you are not worried about purchasing other currencies. You are only worried about what the dollar is worth versus commodities, the things that you buy. So cheaper prices, that's a good thing, right? Well, it really depends on how you look at it. Assume three people, a Brit, a Frenchman, and an American, are trying to buy 1 barrel of oil. A barrel of oil costs $43. For the American, the cost is straightforward. It's $43. For the Brit, because he operates his business in pounds sterling, the oil costs 28 pounds due to the exchange rate. And for the Frenchman, the oil costs 40 francs. Or euro, 40 euro. But suddenly, the US dollar all of a sudden appreciates by 10%. Now the dollar itself does, versus the other currencies. Dollars versus currencies is something that Americans get caught up in that they shouldn't. The American doesn't really care. He is still prepared to pay 43 US dollars for the barrel. Nothing has changed for him. But the Brit can only afford to pay the 28 pounds, which, because of the new exchange rate, is now worth only, instead of being worth instead of being worth $43, it's now worth only $38.70. The Frenchman is in the same position. He can only afford to pay 40 euros, but the 40 euros is only worth $38.70. Point being, there are no other buyers at the moment because everyone else has already bought enough oil for the time being, demand being constant. So the oil seller is forced to drop his price to meet what the Brit and Frenchman are prepared to pay. Because remember, you can only buy and sell oil. You can only buy and sell oil in US dollars. So when that person selling the oil goes to sell it to the American, he gets the $43, okay. But when he doesn't get $43 equivalent from the Brit or the Frenchman because of the increase in the purchasing power of the dollar versus those currencies. So now he's taking a loss. So as he takes a loss and he's making less and less and less and less, that affects commodity prices. See, oil is a commodity. As the dollar gets more powerful, people selling commodities make less. All sugar, corn, all the commodity sellers, as the dollar goes up, the value of what they have, the real world value of it goes down. Because the dollar having its own value as the petrodollar causes this really weird skewing of what things are actually worth. And I'm going to talk about something in a little bit it's going to bother some people. We've talked about it before, but I think it's going to illuminate something in people's minds about this thing called American greatness, that people think it's because of free markets and American exceptionalism and capitalism that we are so much wealthier than the rest of the world. It's absolutely not true. Because the system is now breaking. This US dollar and oil prices are breaking from their historical trade link. And it's making things worse for people around the world. When you hear some people in countries live on less than $2 a day, people wonder, how do they do that? How do they do it? It's because the US dollar is so much more powerful than their currencies. I mean, there's no equivalent for Americans to understand. Other than ironically, maybe Bitcoin. To think of one Bitcoin being worth 20,000 US dollars. To walk around, I have one, but you only have one Bitcoin, only one Bitcoin. Well, to an American, that one coin, it's now worth $18,000. You have 3 coins and you've got a year's pay. So when you think about, that versus the dollar and then the dollar versus the rest of the world's currencies, when you talk about $150 or $200 or $300 to an American, you're not talking about a huge ton of money, but to the 600 million people living south of our border, by the way, that's a bunch of money. That's a whole bunch of money. Now, add in the housing market decline, consumer sentiments, excess deaths from whatever. This is a great video, Facts Matter with Roman Balmakov, talking about funeral CEOs making tons of money because of all the excess deaths. Because you know what? What happens? What happens? People are like, I just can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. So much bad news. How many of you are with me? Show of hands. Oh, I tune into YouTube and I hear about all these things. What do men do when they just can't take it anymore? When they need an escape? Some turn to substances. Some realizing the powerlessness that we have over all of it, of the cabal, the Illuminati, the powers that be. And there's nothing you can do but just get up and go to work and hope and pray that you've got another day. What do some people do? Some people seek solace in the world's oldest profession, whether they can afford it or not. You see, the idea is, I can't really afford anything anyway. I'm already broke. But I do have, a few bucks here, a few bucks there. And this has been the case going back to Bible times with men. People say, Florida Maki, you've talked about this so much. What's your point? My point is, is that there's something coming that the world isn't seeing, and it's already starting to build online. People have made plans and preparations for this end of the world make-believe video game scenario where they think it's going to be some type of an apocalyptic, Jericho-like Red Dawn survival situation when it's not. They've dumped all this money and all this time into canned goods and prepper supplies, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, Joe depressed can go down in the basement, grab a can of something, come upstairs and crack it open. He can put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. He can eat it. He's not going hungry. But what's his life really about? This particular image I'm showing is from 1967. Those of you out there thinking, why do you push prostitution? I'm not pushing prostitution. And those of you who want to accuse me of it, this image you're looking at predates me even being on the planet by 3 years. It's a 1967 movie called The Oldest Profession, and it's labeled as a comedy on IMDb. They were laughing. It's young Raquel Welch. So this is what's going on right now. This is where billions and billions and billions of dollars are flowing online. You see, this is kind of a whammy. A lot of people roll their eyes. Oh, Maki, this is not that true. Here in Florida, backed into a corner, this woman, Victoria Treese, along with many others around the planet, figured out a way to stay home. And while her kids were either having naps or watching videos or whatever, 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, put content up on OnlyFans and made so much money that not only did she pay her own bills, she had time to hire care for her kids and go out and volunteer at schools. You see, it's very, very, very strange. You see, her life, because of everything that's gone on in the world, all these people, all these men being depressed all around the world, for her, it's been a huge boon. Not all women want flowers. Some just want a 40-acre off-grid homestead with a flowing creek, which she could quite right well afford. See this blue line? This is kind of when I started talking about this, and everybody said, oh, Maki, you're crazy. No, I can't believe you're talking about. This blue line is the growth of OnlyFans compared to Patreon or Twitch. Or, for those of you who don't know what OnlyFans is, basically you go in, you pay $5, $6, $8, and you subscribe to a certain content creator, and they create NSFW content. Now, the stats on this are staggering. 170 million users, and this is where it all ties into what I was just talking about with oil and oil prices and money and the dollar. 170 million users, growing by 500,000 every day. But of that, only 1.5 are the ones actually creating the content. The other 168.5 million are viewers. Some of the very top make over $100,000 a month. The average is $151 a month. Now, wait a minute. Back up here. All the way back to this. You see, in some countries, $151 per month is life-changing money. $151 in Venezuela, anywhere in Africa, is life-changing money. You would be $151 a month. You'd be doing fairly good in most of Africa, US dollars. So that's why these little fluctuations, if you make if you're making $1,000 a month in Africa, you are probably the wealthiest person, from the horizon. You could look to the horizon in every direction, and if you're making $1,000 a month in Africa, you're the wealthiest person, as far as the eye can see. And these are places that are huge producers of oil. That's kind of the weird thing about this. Africa and South America are the two biggest producers of oil, what we use anyway, and Saudi Arabia. So when you talk about what's going on and keeping Americans depressed, and there being a financial interest in keeping Americans depressed and spending 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 or $50 a month on things like OnlyFans, with millions and millions and millions of men doing it, it's literally changing economies around the world. I know for a lot of you, it's kind of eye-rolling kind of stuff, but make no mistake. You see, we talked about it in the context of an American couple where he gets home from work and she's just getting ready to go to work and she's like, don't wait up. You know, it's Friday night. I've just got to go do what I got to do. But in America, that would cause problems. In the sense that if everybody in the neighborhood, and this is something a lot of preppers don't think about, if everybody in the neighborhood is suffering, but there's 1 or 2 or 3 that are doing really, really well, while everybody is just kind of scrounging and clipping coupons, questions are going to start to get asked. People are going to wonder. And people are going to start getting nosy. And they're going to want to know what's going on. You see, it's not going to be, see if I can find the right image here. It's not going to be you explaining all of your cans of soup or all of your rifles or all of your beans, bolts, Band-Aids. It's not going to be that. They're going to want to know what's really going on. They're going to say, because yeah, we all have cans of chunky soup. We waited till the BOGO week, for whatever item, and we went and loaded up on all the buy one get ones. We just slowly built our pantry, and we paid half price for everything down there. Just like everyone else did. But we're still stuck at home. We don't have money to do this or do that or do the other. How do you have that kind of money? See, a lot of this kind of stuff is going to start to end up on the market really cheap. If I could give any advice, keep your eyes open for this. In the next year, there's going to be a lot of prepper supplies, not food, but a lot of this kind of stuff. The gas masks, the canteens, the e-tools, all that kind of garbage and crap, the survivalist stuff. You're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff go onto Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and eBay super cheap. Super cheap. Because people are going to be put in the position to say, look, I thought I was going to need 8 ammo cans. I don't need 8 ammo cans. I thought I was going to need 7 different LBEs, load-bearing equipment. No, I'm going to go down to 2. So, this guy looks like he has 4 cowboy hats. I mean, seriously, 4. I don't know whose this is, but it's just kind of ridiculous. But anyway, I will leave it there. I know that was a lot to cover, but prayers for Florida, because we are attempting to do something that hasn't been done in hundreds and hundreds of years. It's basically throw off a king. And they are doing things behind the scenes that are dirty and nasty, and we're going to have to fight back. That's just the way it's going to be. So anyway, God bless. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys so much. I very much appreciate everyone who has showed up. We would love to, once again, have you over at Patreon. It's only $1 US per month. And yes, there is some content that's probably NSFW, but not gratuitously. It all has a purpose. It all has a meaning to it. There's a point. It's not just there to get people to tune in. So, hope everyone's having a wonderful week. Have a great weekend. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you.